In about 5 years' time, you may well be boarding this aircraft. It's the British Aerospace 146, and it's the first new civil aircraft that Britain has developed for nearly 2 decades. It will seat up to 100 passengers, and by the 1990s will probably be as familiar to businessmen as the Trident or the short-distance Boeing 737. So far, it hasn't flown. The first flight is expected later this summer. But for the past year and a half, Nationwide has been watching the development and building of the aircraft. Over the next 4 weeks, we'll be seeing from the inside exactly how a new airliner gets off the ground. Tonight, in the first of the series, Bernard Clark looks at the history, marketing and design of the British Aerospace 146.
There was a time when aircraft were designed of long hours and crazy risks. This is now the de Havilland Museum at British Aerospace Hatfield, but it was also the old grey shed where Geoffrey de Havilland designed many of his original aircraft. It was his boardroom, his sales office, and quite often his bedroom too. One man working on his own, private enterprise at its most romantic. He took the decisions himself, and if they later proved wrong, he alone carried the can. Now that was all right when aircraft cost about £1 a pound or £1,000 for a prototype. But as the Second World War approached, it became obvious that a new system was developing. That new system can be summed up in one word: committee. In 50 years, the progress in modern aviation has been so breathtakingly fast that now no one person could hold the design of even one wing in their head. The discipline of today's aircraft designers is no longer the up-all-night individual brainstorming for ideas. These days, it's more important to be able to manipulate a committee or to make sense of a printout. This is where an aircraft starts, with a prediction of sales. You may think that the 146, a relatively small, very ordinary sort of aircraft, isn't the sort of thing that today's modern, ultra-competitive airlines would be after. But this computer would disagree. In 1978, the total worldwide market was predicted to be 1,200. The manufacturers here expect to corner a third of that market. That's a total sale of 350. And from the point of view of British Aerospace, that makes the 146 a good aircraft, because a good aircraft is one that sells. The history of commercial airlines is a brutal one, where boys' own dreams lie shattered on the assembly line. Timing is all. Imagination a sadly expensive luxury. The first mass production airliner was the DC-3, which first flew in 1934. Like the Model T Ford for cars, the DC-3 completely changed aviation. Altogether, 11,000 were built, and from the Dakota onwards, airliners would have to be sales-oriented, like the Viscount, built by Vickers in Surrey. Although an unspectacular aircraft, it was precisely tailored to its market.
This Viscount airliner, made by Vickers Armstrong, is being inspected by representatives of Capital Airlines, one of the largest civil companies in the United States. The Viscount is powered by 4 propeller turbines and can carry up to 53 passengers. The American visitors were so impressed with the workmanship, economy and design that they signed a contract for 3 of the aircraft to the value of over £1 million. And what's more, they've taken an option on a further 37.
Through the 1950s, it gradually sold, a total of 450. The timing was right. The size, technology, price were very ordinary, but it became perhaps the most successful British civil aircraft ever built. At roughly the same time, Britain was leading the world with the first civil jet aircraft, the Comet, which also first flew in 1949. It was the centrepiece of the British aircraft industry, confirming a worldwide lead in jet engine technology, but it was ahead of its time. The Comet was shattered by a series of crashes, culminating on the 10th of January 1954, when it crashed off Elba. Investigation showed that metal fatigue, a problem unappreciated previously, had caused the crashes. The Comet never really recovered, and by the time the faults had been rectified, it was recognized as too much, too early. It was a commercial disaster. But the Americans had learned from our pioneering mistakes. 5 years later than the Comet, Boeing launched their 707. The timing was exactly right. The 707 sold nearly 1,000 and captured the commercial jet market for the company. When the British aviation industry tried to fight back, it was consistently beaten, usually by the well-established Boeing. The Britannia, obsolete before it carried a single passenger, only 80 sold. Too little, too late. The Trident, beaten by the Boeing equivalent, because through the 707, they'd already cornered the market. And then Concorde, where imagination went beyond economic constraints. It was a commercial disaster of enduring proportions, virtually killing off in one plane the full-size, full-range British airliner. But there's one area where the British aircraft industry has been successful: the feeder liner.